Hey guys, tonight we begin with a moment in time that doesn't get enough credit for being absolutely horrifically awful. The year 536 AD. Never heard of it. That's okay. Most people haven't. But ask any climate historian, and they'll tell you this was quite possibly the worst year to be alive. Seriously, if there were ancient Yelp reviews for the 6th century 536, would be flagged for hostile environment and sun not working. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's drifting into history with me around the world. Now dim, the lights maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake up bundled in a tunic that smells faintly of mildew and boiled onions, pretty standard for a 6th century peasant. The floor is cold beneath your feet, a compacted patch of dirt you've walked across so many times it's smoother than your cousin's forehead. You step outside, yawning, ready to greet the sun and get the day started. Except there is no sun. The sky instead looks like a badly cleaned window, gray dim and slightly threatening. The sun is up there somewhere, but it's not shining. It's not even trying. It's more like a glow-in-the-dark sticker after 6 years of use, just kind of there existing, but not helping anyone. The eerie gloom doesn't lift. Not today, not tomorrow, not for more than a year. The sun's rays are so weak that it feels like dusk at high noon. Shadows vanish. Crops pause. Flowers give up on blooming. And birds get confused and sleep in. And as for you, you're now stuck in a world where daylight is an elaborate prank. This isn't just fog or mist. It's a strange veil across the sky, thick enough to turn clear noon into twilight, and it covers more than your village. Across the known world, from Ireland to China, people start reporting the same thing. A sun that shines, but doesn't warm, doesn't light, doesn't comfort. It's as if the universe hit the dimmer switch and walked away. In Constantinople, the historian Procopius records the event with barely contained anxiety. He writes, "The sun gave forth its light without brightness, like the moon during this whole year." Imagine that. A whole year of moody, gray nothing. And remember, this is a world without electric lights, without LED flashlights, or YouTube's cozy fireplace videos. When the sun lets you down, the darkness isn't poetic. It's terrifying. But that's not all. The temperatures plummet. Summer never arrives. Snow falls in China in August. Ireland's records mention the failure of bread, which is medieval shorthand for we're in deep trouble. Crops fail not just from cold, but from confusion. Plants don't know when to sprout, so they just don't. Fields remain eerily quiet, like they're holding their breath. You trudge past your neighbor's field, a muddy expanse where barley once swayed, and see nothing but stunted stalks and half-hearted weeds. Livestock thin out. Chickens stop laying eggs. The village priest is looking particularly twitchy. In towns, people begin whispering about omens. The old woman who reads bones says the spirits are silent, which is somehow more ominous than if they were screaming. Someone blames a nearby mountain. Someone else blames a wandering monk with suspicious eyebrows. Most people, though, quietly begin to panic. What caused this modern science has a few ideas. One leading theory is a volcanic eruption, possibly in Iceland, so massive it hurled sulfur and ash into the stratosphere, forming a sunlight-blocking haze that wrapped around the globe. Tree ring data shows a sudden drop in growth. ice cores revealed trapped particles from massive volcanic fallout. But back then, people didn't have ice cores or volcanologists. They had goats and prayers and really, really bad guesses. Imagine living through this and having no explanation, no news, no weather reports, just your gut telling you something is off and it's not the stew this time. Now let's get a bit quirkier for a second. You're in a world that genuinely believed the heavens reflected earthly balance. So if the sky turns sickly, that must mean something down here is really messed up. People start to think it's the end of days. Others think it's punishment for sins your neighbor confesses to stealing turnips and immediately builds a personal altar. Meanwhile, the village kids draw what they think the sun looks like because they're starting to forget. Clocks, calendars, forget it. Time feels different when the sun won't cooperate. Days blur together. There's no clear dawn or dusk, just endless dim. People light candles at noon. Midday prayers move earlier or later because no one can tell when noon even is. You start sleeping in, waking up unsure whether it's morning or dinner. Sound familiar? But wait, there's more. The darkness, it turns out, is just the beginning. Soon, the cold sets in. And not just bring a jacket. Cold, this is your soup, freezes in the bowl cold. People wrap themselves in every layer they own and still shiver. Fires burn out faster. Wood becomes precious. You eye your stool and wonder how flammable it really is. And the worst part, you don't know if this is the new forever. Maybe the sun's just broken. Maybe the gods have left. Maybe tomorrow the world stops altogether. At night, you lie in bed, a pile of straw that creaks with every breath, and stare into the pitch black above. No stars, no moon. Just a void that presses in, as if daring you to close your eyes. You think of the fields, the animals, the empty pantries, and you wonder what happens when the stores run dry. Welcome to 536 AD a year, where time lost its light and the world forgot how to grow. And the worst, oh no, dear listener, this is just the beginning. The sun hasn't come back. It's now been weeks, maybe months, since you last saw a real sunrise. You've lost track of time. Everyone has. The fog still hangs thick in the air, not like a morning mist that burns off by noon, but a permanent shroud. A gloopy gray film spread across the heavens, like the gods tried to repaint the sky and gave up halfway through. The village is quieter now. Even the chickens have stopped clucking so much. It's as if the world itself has gone into a sulk. And things are getting bad. Remember those crops? Yeah, they're officially done for. The barley's yellowed and collapsed. The beans never bloomed. The turnips were the size of your thumbnail and tasted like damp clay. People are starting to panic, but medieval panic doesn't look like modern panic. There's no Twitter meltdown or stock market crash. It's more like an uncomfortable silence at the village well. People stop greeting each other. The baker shrinks his loaves. You see fewer smiles and more children chewing on bits of leather for breakfast. The famine begins subtly. First, it's just smaller meals, then skipped meals. Then hunger becomes the daily rhythm. You wake up hungry, spend the day hungrier, and go to bed with your stomach whispering betrayal. By now, people are eating things they shouldn't. Bark, weeds, soup made from shoe leather. One man in the next village apparently boiled moss and claimed it tasted like fish. He was either delusional or a culinary pioneer, but no one's judging anymore. Some of the more creative villagers start foraging. You know this. because your neighbor's prize goat suddenly disappears and the stew pot smells suspiciously festive the next day. No one says a word. Goat isn't sacred, but neither is theft. Still, people are getting desperate, and desperation has a way of rewriting morality. The cold doesn't help. Normally, you'd be planting new crops or preparing tools, but with no sun, the ground stays hard and frozen. Frost clings to the inside of your house walls like moldy lace. Even your breath feels thicker. You bundle in layers of scratchy wool, hoping friction counts as warmth. You huddle near the hearth, but the firewood pile is shrinking. Every log you burn is a decision between heat and tomorrow. At night, the cold is cruel. It sneaks through cracks in the walls, coils around your ankles, and taps your spine with icy fingers. You start sleeping in shifts. Whoever wakes up coldest stokes the fire. It becomes a nightly ritual, one that no one enjoys but everyone accepts. The room stinks of smoke sweat and boiled roots. You miss the days when it smelled like nothing. But it's not just you. In far-off Constantinople, the capital of the Byzantine Empire, even emperors are confused. Reports flood in from every corner of the known world: Persia, Egypt, China. In each place, the stories the same: dark skies, bad harvests, freezing temperatures. In China, records say the snow fell in midsummer, ruining rice fields and freezing out silkworms. Imperial scribes are frantically documenting these weird celestial omens because when the sky misbehaves, it's almost always blamed on politics or sin or both. And while nobody's invented meteorology, yet rumors spread like wildfire except more efficiently. Some say it's the wrath of heaven. Others whisper that it's punishment for unchecked sin. One priest delivers a sermon so dramatic that the congregation weeps less from guilt and more from hunger and fear. Then he promptly faints, because guess who skipped breakfast? In Ireland, monks record the failure of bread. That's not just poetic. That's code for famine. The Irish annals mention a failure of bread from the 12th year to the 14th, which for the record is a very polite way of saying 2 years of complete disaster. By now, you're living through the kind of event that future historians will argue about, and you don't even know it. Oh, and the animals, they're suffering too. The livestock are thinning out, ribs, visible milk drying up. The cows low more weakly. Pigs aren't even bothering to grunt. Chickens peck at frozen dirt like it personally offended them. Even your dog has stopped wagging his tail, which feels like an emotional betrayal. You remember one morning, catching your reflection in a frozen puddle. Your face is thinner, your eyes sunken, your cheeks hollow, and yet you still have it better than some. Already you've heard of neighboring villages losing people not to plague, not yet, but to starvation, to exposure, to quiet decisions made when the food runs out and someone offers to share for a price. And now there's talk of movement, entire families abandoning homes and heading south or east or anywhere that might offer warmth. But no one knows where to go. There are no good choices, only less frozen ones. The worst part, there's no end in sight. People begin marking days on walls with charcoal, not to track time, but to cling to some illusion of control. You do the same. One mark for every sunrise, even if the sun never really rises. You find comfort in the rhythm. Scratch, eat, freeze, sleep, repeat. Historians today believe this global dimming came from a volcanic eruption, possibly in Iceland, spitting ash so high it wrapped the earth in a dirty scarf. Others suggest a series of eruptions, or even a comet impact. But back in your village, you don't have ice core data. You have frostbitten fingers and a growing suspicion that the gods are ghosting you. And so, you trudge on. Each day, harder than the last. Each night colder. But still, you wake up. Still, you rise. Still, you hope just a little that tomorrow the sky will clear and the sun will come back. Not like a half-hearted candle, but like a friend who left too long and returns with warmth in their eyes. But not today. Snow in August. That's the kind of sentence that would make a Roman astrologer spill his wine and check the heavens twice. But here you are, middle of summer, or what should be summer, and your village is staring at flakes of snow drifting lazily through the gray sky. A boy reaches out, catches one on his tongue, and looks more confused than delighted. A little girl asks if winter got lost. You don't have an answer. This isn't the normal kind of snow either. It's light, persistent. It falls on ripe fields like a bad omen. Wheat turns to slush. Hay gets damp and moldy before harvest. And you can't help but feel like the world's trying to switch seasons without telling anyone. Historians call this phenomenon a volcanic winter, but you don't know that. You just call it unnatural. The weather's drunk and nobody seems able to cut it off. Everything is out of sync. Chickens start molting early. Trees shed leaves as if confused. Bees disappear. Even the frogs that normally croak non-stop at night have gone silent. It's as if nature herself has unplugged. And the humans, we're trying our best, which isn't saying much. People wrap themselves in every scrap of fabric they own. Scarves are made from old grain sacks. Cloaks from patched together bits of wool. You layer so many tunics, you start to feel like an onion with self-esteem issues. And yet the cold still bites. You try to start a fire using damp kindling and some very strong language. It sputters to life, but the smoke clings low, refusing to rise. Even fire is behaving oddly these days, as if heat itself has lost its confidence. You joke about it, but your teeth are chattering too loud. And then comes the cold rain. Not a downpour, just a constant misty drizzle that seeps into bones and spirits. It turns dirt paths into mud traps. Wooden homes begin to reek of rot. Mold blossoms on ceilings like uninvited guests. People start sneezing more, coughing more. The village healer recommends herbs, but the herbs are gone. They didn't survive the last frost. You watch the rain from your door, shoulders hunched, and wonder again what's going on. You're not the only one. In China, imperial records note the same bizarre events. Crops failing, snow in summer, a strange yellow haze in the sky. The emperor's advisors suggest sacrifices and temples fill with panicked offerings. In Rome, what's left of it, people are equally baffled. Is it a comet? A curse? Have the gods declared bankruptcy? One Byzantine scholar blames the sun itself, suggesting it was somehow sick. You'd laugh if that didn't feel so true. Historians still argue whether this was the result of one massive volcanic eruption, maybe Iceland's Elja, or Ilopango in El Salvador, or several smaller ones compounding each other. Theories include a comet strike or a meteor crashing into the sea. But back in 536, you don't have geological models. You just have livestock dying of cold and neighbors hoarding onions like they're gold coins. And while we're on the topic of livestock, let's check in on the animals. Again, shall we? Cows have stopped giving milk. Chickens lay one egg a week if you're lucky. Pigs are quieter, less wiggly. They huddle close together for warmth. The dog sleeps under your bed, less out of loyalty, more out of survival instinct. Even the cats are staying indoors, which frankly feels like the surest sign of an apocalypse. Your village gathers more often, now not for festivals or markets, but to swap news and theories. One man suggests digging tunnels and living underground. Another suggests it's the end of days and recommends confessing sins daily just to be safe. You nod thoughtfully while wondering if hoarding that wheel of moldy cheese last week counts as a sin. By now, your dreams are strange. You dream of warmth and sunshine and thick loaves of bread with actual flavor. You dream of swimming of bare feet on sun-baked stones. You dream of color. Everything around you is gray sky dirt food mood. Even your clothes seem to have dulled. It's like living in a badly tuned charcoal sketch. And it's not just the peasants who are noticing. Nobles, priests, and emperors are all reacting differently. Some declare fasts. Others declare feasts, eating the last of their stores in lavish acts of desperation. Some rulers turn to astrologers demanding answers. The stars remain frustratingly ambiguous. The rich, of course, suffer less. They have better cloaks, warmer fires, deeper food reserves. But even they are running out. There's only so much salted meat, dried fruit, and smug confidence to go around. Back in your hut, you count your family's remaining food, a few onions, some stale rye bread, and a bag of dried peas. Enough for 3 more days if you ration carefully. Or 1 depressing stew, if you throw caution to the wind. And so, you make stew. You boil water, add everything. Stir it with a stick that used to be part of your broom. The smell is earthy, faintly sour, but warm. Everyone eats slowly, chewing thoughtfully, as if pretending it tastes better makes it true. You catch your child licking the bowl. You don't stop them. Outside, the snow has stopped, but the sky remains the same dull gray, unwavering. A neighbor knocks, offers half a turnip in trade for firewood. You accept, not because it's fair, but because you like her. And as you sit by the fire that night, wrapped in your least damp cloak, you whisper a wish not for wealth or glory or even sunshine, just for one morning, one single morning, where the world feels normal again. That's not too much to ask, is it? You know things are bad, when even the doomsday preachers start sounding nervous. It starts small, just a few mutterings near the village chapel. Someone says the sky looks angry. Another insists it's the work of demons. The old priest doesn't help. He clears his throat during Mass and stares out the door more than at the altar. And then one morning, he breaks. Not in a dramatic thunderclap on the pulpit kind of way. No, it's quieter than that. He simply stops pretending everything is fine. He tells the congregation voice, low and trembling, that we may be witnessing the end times, that the darkness is a sign, that the sun, the giver of life, has turned its face from us. There are gasps, some weeping. One man tries to leave but trips over the pew in his rush. The rest just sit in silence like children who've realized the adults are just as scared. The whispers begin to spread. People start saying prayers more often, longer, louder. They carry charms, hang tokens from door frames. You notice more folks wearing crude wooden crosses or strange braided herbs around their necks. A woman near the river starts offering blessings water words and a hard stare for a slice of bread. You give her a hunk of stale rye and get a blessing that smells suspiciously like fish. It's not just fear of hunger anymore. It's cosmic. People believe something bigger is happening, something divine or diabolical, or both. In larger towns, the situation is no different, just louder. Traveling monks carry tales of cities where people have taken to sleeping in churches, terrified to die outside holy walls. In the countryside, pilgrims wander through villages barefoot, muttering prayers and collecting alms. Some whip themselves, convinced that self-punishment might restore the sun. You offer them a crust of bread and a confused look. They leave a smear of blood on your fence as thanks. In your own village, a group starts building a tower, not a grand one, just a rickety scaffold they call the light's ladder. The idea: if you climb high enough, maybe you'll see where the sun went. Maybe you can talk to it. They get halfway up before the wind takes the top half down. Miraculously, no one's hurt. Or maybe the sun is impressed. Hard to say. One scholar traveling through the area carries a dusty scroll and big ideas. He says this isn't punishment, it's a natural event. He mentions ash in the air and earthquakes far away. But he also wears 2 cloaks and smells like panic, so people mostly ignore him. You, however, listen. You start piecing things together. The haze, the cold, the strange rain. Could it be something physical, like a massive fire, a mountain exploding? But how could one mountain darken the entire sky? You have no maps, no news, just your instincts and a rapidly emptying pantry. But those instincts keep tugging at you. The priest says repent. The monk says fast. The traveler says geology. You say, none of this helps you grow beans. Still, you try everything. You pray. You light a candle in the chapel, watching the flame flicker like it's nervous. You scatter ash across your doorframe just in case. You bury a coin near your turnip patch because an old woman said it might please the earth. It doesn't, but it gives you something to do. And right now, anything that feels like control is precious. Then one evening, something odd happens. Not miraculous, not bright, just different. A faint glow in the western sky. Not blue, not golden, just a slightly less oppressive gray. People gather in the village square staring. Children ask if the sun is coming back. Adults shrug. But something about that moment, however fleeting, feels like a pause in the nightmare. You go home, stomach growling, and try to sleep. You dream of sunlight of wheat swaying in the breeze of bread, so fluffy it defies logic. You wake up with your mouth watering and a deep sadness pressing on your chest. Outside, the sky is back to its usual gloom. And now, the conversations shift from fear to blame. Whispers turn sharp. Someone accuses the new blacksmith of bringing the darkness. He's from another village, after all. A stranger. His wife wears red. She's seen talking to crows. Definitely suspicious. Soon they move out voluntarily, but not exactly peacefully. No one throws stones, but no one shares food either. The message is clear. Trust is fading. It doesn't take long for superstition to overtake reason. Someone sacrifices a chicken on a stone in the forest. Someone else burns a bundle of herbs and says a rhyme they barely remember. Children start drawing suns in the dirt over and over. You see one, with tears in her eyes, smudging the rays with her thumb, like she's trying to remember how it looked. Historians today look back at these behaviors with a mix of sympathy and fascination. They call it crisis religiosity, the human instinct to turn to ritual in times of chaos. But to you, it's just daily life now. A life where the sky's broken, the bread's gone, and your only hope is that anything shifts soon. But the sun doesn't return. Not yet. Instead, the gloom continues. The crops fail again. The cold lingers. And now the village healer is sick. She coughs constantly, eyes glassy. She's the one who knows which herbs to boil, which roots to chew, which wounds to poultice. Without her, people are scared. You offer to help. She nods barely, hands you her basket of tools. A dried mushroom, a crooked blade, a small cloth bag filled with what smells like regret. She mutters something, either a thank you or a warning, and drifts into sleep. You sit beside her and feel the weight of the village shift just slightly onto your shoulders. Outside, the villagers are building a second tower. This one's for watching the sky. No ladders, just a platform elevated. A place to stand and look for hope. You take a turn on it that night, wrapped in your cloak eyes, scanning the endless gray. You don't expect to see anything, but you do it anyway. Because what else is there? If you were an emperor in 536 AD, you might think you had a better shot at surviving all this gloom, hunger, and celestial confusion. After all, you've got palaces, servants, golden dishes, and an army that wears matching tunics. But even emperors can't command the sky. In Constantinople, the heart of the Byzantine Empire, Emperor Justinian is having a truly miserable year. He's been dreaming of glory, reconquering lost Roman lands, rebuilding infrastructure, enforcing law and order. His legacy is supposed to be all marble columns and shimmering mosaics. Instead, it's fog famine and very annoyed bureaucrats. You are not in Justinian's court, of course. You are still a peasant. But word of the emperor's frustration drifts down through trade routes and traveling monks. They say his astrologers are stumped. His generals are grumpy. His scribes are writing everything down in case history wants receipts. You picture him standing on a palace balcony, arms crossed, glaring at the gray sky, like he expects it to apologize. Spoiler, it won't. What's worse, his plans are unraveling. Justinian had recently ordered the reconstruction of Hagia Sophia, the grandest church in Christendom. But the dim skies and freezing temperatures have delayed shipments of stone and timber. Masons complain that the mortar won't dry properly in the damp. Candles must be lit all day, turning the holy site into a smoky labyrinth of unfinished arches and frustrated workers. Taxes still need to be collected. Empire doesn't fund itself after all. But with harvests ruined, many provinces have nothing to give. Some send half-rotted grain, others don't bother sending anything at all. Imperial tax collectors return empty-handed, or worse, don't return at all. A few villages have taken to hiding their populations when the taxmen arrive. It's easy, really. Everyone's inside trying not to freeze. Meanwhile, the markets of Constantinople are grim. Fish is scarce. Bread costs more than a chicken used to. Even the silk trade, once the empire's shimmering crown jewel, falters. No one cares about luxury when their goats are starving. Merchants complain. Nobles grumble. One baker stages a one-man protest by throwing moldy loaves into the Bosphorus. Nobody notices. The fog swallows his revolution whole. Justinian tries to maintain order. He issues decrees. He calls for prayers. He even launches a few symbolic public works, repairing an aqueduct, opening grain stores for the poor. But it's not enough. People are hungry, and fear is catching. In your village far from the palace, the emperor is just a name. But even here, you feel the ripple effects. That caravan that used to pass through once a month with salt cloth and dried figs gone. The traveling monk with Greek scrolls, and that donkey who ate socks, also gone. The world is shrinking. Connections are fraying. Isolation is no longer quaint. It's standard. You begin to realize something important. Even the most powerful humans are helpless when nature decides to throw a tantrum. All the armor scrolls and temple incense in the world can't pierce the sunless sky. One afternoon, an old man from another village arrives. He's missing 3 teeth, wears a hat made from what looks like a curtain, and claims to have been in Constantinople. The priest gives him a seat near the hearth in exchange for stories. The man tells of empty market soldiers too cold to march, and a noble woman who lit incense every hour convinced it would summon light. Did it work, someone asks? The old man shrugs. She ran out of incense. His stories spread. You picture the emperor pacing under chandeliers, gnawing his royal fingernails, watching his empire dissolve into smoke and frost. It's oddly comforting. Misery, it turns out, is a great equalizer. Meanwhile, back in your hut, survival is becoming its own kind of ritual. You've stopped waiting for normal. Now, you prepare for each day, like tiny war-gather, wood-check on the soup, inspect the roof for leaks, count the dried peas again. The rhythm is relentless, but there's comfort in its predictability. Your child small, quiet far too thin, draws pictures in the ash near the hearth. Sons over and over. Some smiling, some crying. You don't ask which ones are true. The village has started rationing food officially now. A council of elders was formed not because anyone wanted to, but because hunger demands organization. People bring what they can spare. Someone discovers a buried cache of dried apples. It's like finding buried treasure, if treasure came in the form of shriveled fruit and faint hope. One elder mentions the emperor again, says he heard Justinian is planning to reconquer Italy. The room erupts in laughter, not because of politics, but because no one can imagine traveling that far for anything, let alone war. You barely have the energy to walk to the well, and yet Justinian does press forward. Despite the darkness, despite the famine, despite everything, he sends his general Belisarius westward to reclaim lost Roman lands. Some historians will later call it a bold move. Others will call it absurd. But in 536, it's just more noise from a far-off place where people still pretend the world makes sense. What does that mean for you? Well, mostly nothing. Except that someday, when scribes write about this year, they'll write about Justinian's politics, his campaigns, his policies. They won't write about you, about how you shared your last onion with a neighbor, how you watched the fog and whispered for it to break, how you rationed your hope like dried lentils. But that's okay, because even if history forgets your name, it can't ignore your resilience. You tuck your child into bed, pulling the scratchy blanket up to their chin. They ask if the sun will come back tomorrow. You say maybe. Then you blow out the candle and sit in the quiet. The wind hums through the cracks in the walls. Your stomach growls. Your heart doesn't, because you're still here. You wouldn't expect to hear much from China in 536, not from your cold little village anyway. But if you could somehow peek across the planet, you'd see the same dim sky haunting the Tang territories long before the dynasty even gets rolling. And in those distant provinces, the story is eerily familiar. Crops, dying rivers, freezing skies that sulk more than shine. Imperial records carefully brushed onto long strips of bamboo or fine silk note yellow mists, freak frosts in summer, and failed harvests stretching across entire regions. The royal astronomers in Luoyang scratch their heads and consult the heavens, but the stars offer no clarification, just more silence. You'd think an emperor with 1,000 advisors and libraries full of scrolls might have an answer. But the truth is, they're just as confused as your village priest, just fancier about it. Some suggest performing elaborate sky rituals. Others recommend sacrifices adjustments to the calendar or fasting. One official, likely a bit sleep-deprived and desperate, proposes sending a letter to the sun. Nobody knows what address to use. And it's not just politics or religion driving the panic. In a rice-based economy like China's, when the paddies dry up, or worse, freeze, society wobbles. Rice isn't just food. It's money. It's trade. It's stability. When rice yields vanish, everything else follows peasants. Riot markets, crash tax collectors go missing. Entire regions fall into disarray. Sound familiar? Now imagine being a farmer on the Yangtze ankle-deep in mud, staring at paddies that refuse to flood. You poke the soil. Too dry. Too cold. You look to the sky. Still gray. You light incense. Still gray. Your wife asks about dinner. You point at a toad and raise an eyebrow. She does not laugh. Just like in your village, people in China turn to superstition. They blame dragons, hoarding rain ghosts blocking the sun, or imbalances in the five elements. Local shamans grow busy. Temples overflow. You picture a whole village bowing toward the horizon, praying for sunlight, while chickens look on, unimpressed. Meanwhile, the Silk Road, yes, that famous network of trade routes connecting east to west starts fraying. Merchants traveling by camel complain that entire way stations have gone dark. Wells have dried. Bandits now outnumber traders. No one's buying luxury goods. Silk stockpiles rot in wagons. And the great bazaars of the East go with silence. Back in your own fog-choked village, the name China is maybe something you've heard once in a tavern story about porcelain so thin it sings. But you don't need to know the name to feel the ripple. Trade has slowed. Exotic goods stopped arriving long ago. Salt is scarce. Spices are myths. The old merchant, who used to brag about papery scrolls from far-off cities, now just sharpens knives and avoids eye contact. Still, there's something oddly reassuring about knowing the suffering is global. It's not comforting exactly, but it reminds you that this isn't just personal misfortune. This is planetary. Scholars today debate whether the 536th climate event hit different regions at slightly different times. Some claim the cooling in Asia lagged by a few months. Others say the eruption or eruptions were closer to the northern hemisphere, affecting Europe first. But none of that matters to you. What matters is this: it's cold, it's dark, and no one knows why. You watch your breath curl in the air as you walk past the village square. A boy is carving something into the frost-covered fence, a son with a sad face and teardrops. His mother scolds him, says not to tempt fate. He shrugs and keeps carving. Inside the communal hall, the elders are arguing again. One wants to send a message to the next village over asking if they've seen sunlight. Another suggests moving south, though no one's sure what south means exactly. No maps, no guides, just a vague sense that it might be warmer. A third elder insists that staying put is best. After all, it's only been a year. You want to scream. A year. That's enough time to grow a beard, bury 2 goats, and memorize every lump in your straw mattress. If one more person says it's only been a year, you'll throw a turnip at them. But instead, you volunteer to carry the message. The next village is 2 days away, maybe 3 if the mud is bad. You pack your things: a hunk of bread, a strip of dried meat, a spare pair of socks, and a bone-handled knife you swore you'd never use. You kiss your child on the head, nod to your neighbor, and set off at dawn, or what passes for dawn these days. The path is eerie. Trees sag under frost. Birds are silent. A deer darts across the trail and vanishes. You move steadily, boots, crunching over frozen leaves. At night, you curl under a cloak, listening to the wind whisper secrets you don't want to understand. On the second day, you spot smoke. Not ominous smoke, cooking smoke. The other village still has fires. You limp into their square, face cracked from cold, and hand over the message. An elder reads it aloud. Have you seen the sun? They laugh, not cruelly, just tiredly. Then someone offers you soup, thin, rooty, but warm. And you sit and you eat and you listen as their stories echo yours. Crops failed livestock, dwindling children drawing suns in the mud. In that moment, you realize something simple but profound. We're all just people, fumbling through the same gray world, hoping for light. And maybe that's enough to keep going. By now, you've probably noticed something odd about the air. It doesn't just feel cold, it feels thick, oily, like it clings to your skin. When you take a deep breath, there's a faint metallic tang, like licking an old coin. The smoke from fires doesn't rise properly anymore. It coils low to the ground, creeps through doorways, settles in your lungs. You've stopped wondering if it's healthy. You already know it's not. But what's causing it? No one in your village knows, of course. They blame the usual suspects, curses, sin, maybe a giant somewhere who kicked over a heavenly brazier. But modern scientists think they've found the culprit, and it's not just one event. Welcome to the theory of a world on fire without flames. Historians now suspect that what darkened the sky in 536 wasn't just one volcanic eruption, but possibly several spaced across continents and months. The prime suspect: a volcano in Iceland buried beneath glaciers that may have unleashed a cloud of ash and sulfur so vast it wrapped around the earth like a filthy scarf. But here's where it gets stranger. Some believe it wasn't just Iceland. Other eruptions might have followed in Central America and Indonesia, maybe even in North America. The atmosphere, already bruised, couldn't recover fast enough. Layer after layer of dust and gas blocked sunlight, reflecting it away like a cosmic sunshade. You, of course, don't know about atmospheric sulfur dioxide levels or global stratospheric aerosol optical thickness. You just know your cabbages look like they've been cursed, and your dog sneezes more than usual. Some villagers have started calling the haze sky rot. Others think it's smoke from a massive fire somewhere far away. They imagine a burning forest that stretches to the ends of the earth, feeding the gloom day and night. One child even insists it's dragon breath. You nod. Honestly, it's as good a guess as any. And the effects aren't just visual. There's a strange stillness to everything. Sounds are muffled. Even the birds, when they bother to sing, seem quieter. It's like living in a room where someone turned down the volume of the world. At night, the darkness is a different flavor. Not just absence of light, but something deeper. It feels thick. You can't see your hand in front of your face unless the fire's roaring, and who has the wood for that anymore? Your eyes ache from squinting. Your candles run out faster. Your dreams get darker too. One night, you dream of standing in a vast ash field, the sky cracked open like pottery. Something moves above you. Slow, deliberate watching. You wake up cold, heart pounding, unsure whether it was a nightmare or prophecy. You don't mention it to anyone. Even your animals sense it. The sheep huddle closer than usual. The chickens refuse to leave their coop. Your neighbor's cat has taken to staring at the wall for hours, tail twitching like it knows something you don't. You start wondering if maybe it does. Back in the real world, The old healer, frail but sharp-eyed, starts collecting strange samples. She points to the soot clinging to the side of a jug and mutters, "Not from firewood." She boils water from the well, frowns at the way it clouds. "Sky sickness," she whispers. You ask what that means. She doesn't answer. And yet amidst all this, people keep adapting. They start building windbreaks, fences of woven branches designed to deflect the constant chill. Some experiment with underground storage, burying vegetables deeper in the earth to protect them from sudden frosts. Others learn to dry meat, using smoke inside sealed pits. It works. Sort of. But nothing makes the sun shine again. At the chapel, the priest delivers his sermons with a hoarseness that didn't used to be there. He coughs mid-prayer, wipes his sleeve, and keeps going. "We are tested," he says, "like iron in the forge." You glance at the blackened sky and wonder if the forge broke. One day, you spot a new face in the village, a woman wrapped in layers of dyed wool, her voice smoky, her eyes sharp. She carries a bundle of scrolls and claims to be a scholar. Not a priest, not a merchant, just someone who records what happens. She asks questions about the sky, the air, your dreams. She sketches the way the mist clings to the trees. You don't trust her, but you're curious, so you talk. She tells you stories from other places, far cities with the same gray gloom, ports where ships never docked, islands where crops failed and villages vanished. The world, she says, is hiding under a blanket of ash. And still, she smiles. People endure, she adds almost like an afterthought. You watch her leave with her notes and her stories. You wonder if anyone will ever read them, if future generations will believe that the sun once dimmed and the air turned to smoke. That bread vanished, hope faded, and still somehow, life kept ticking along. Because that's what it does. It doesn't flourish. It doesn't sparkle. It just continues. Like a stubborn weed in a frozen garden. You return home. Your child is coughing again, but it's soft. Nothing serious. You wrap them in a woolen blanket, share the last of the turnip stew, and light one precious candle. The glow is feeble, but it's something. Outside, the sky hangs low and gray and indifferent. But inside, you hold a tiny circle of light. Something's changed. You don't notice it right away. It's not as though trumpets blare and golden sunlight suddenly bursts through the clouds. No, it's quieter than that. Subtle. Like the way a bruise fades without fanfare, or how a wound stops aching one morning, and you don't even realize it until nightfall. It starts with a shadow, a real one. You're walking past the well bucket in one hand, sore shoulder in the other, when you realize your outline is visible on the frozen ground. Not crisp, not bold, but there. The faintest smudge of darkness cast by your own body. You stop, stare, tilt your head. The shadow shifts. You laugh. It sounds strange, like something you haven't done in a while. A bird nearby flutters upward, startled. Later that day, the village elder confirms it. Sunlight, he says, as if naming a forgotten friend. The sky is still cloudy, still thick with haze, but there's a new quality to it, a pale goldness, a whisper of warmth. No one celebrates. Not yet. It feels too fragile. But something has changed. People linger outdoors a bit longer. Fires burn a little lower. Children, cautious but curious, draw bigger suns in the dirt. Someone even sings while chopping wood off key, wheezy but joyful. It's the first music you've heard in weeks. And then, of course, the snow returns. Briefly. Just enough to remind you not to get cocky. But hope once planted has roots. The healer, somehow still alive, still wise, says the air tastes different. less metallic, more earthy. She starts collecting wild herbs again. Just a few, mind you. Nothing dramatic, but enough to suggest the soil is softening, that the earth, after months of silence, might finally be listening again. You see it too. Tiny shoots in the dirt near the chapel. Not weeds, not frost-burned survivors, but real green life. You don't know what they are. You don't care. You kneel in the mud and stare like it's a miracle. And maybe it is, because make no mistake, you are still in the middle of the nightmare. Food stores are critically low. People are thinner than ever. Disease still lingers, especially among the old. But now, when people speak of the future, it's not with dread, it's with caution. A planning sort of tone. A what if instead of a what now. Historians will later note that 537 was still a terrible year. Cold, dark, dangerous. But compared to the abyss of 536, it's a half step toward recovery. And that's how survival works. Not in leaps. In stumbles. You begin preparing new fields, even though the soil is still half frozen. You trade a bit of wool for seeds from a neighboring village. No one knows if they'll take, but the gesture matters. It's faith with dirt under its nails. The priest, who spent the past months looking like a human question mark, actually delivers a hopeful sermon. We have endured, he says, voice cracking. We have been tested. There's no fire and brimstone today, just a soft smile and a whispered prayer of thanks. And for once, people don't look away when he meets their eyes. Even the animals seem different. The chickens are louder. The dog barks again at nothing as usual, but still it feels familiar. The sheep are shedding less. You swear you heard a pig snort in its sleep, which is probably meaningless, but oddly comforting. You take small walks again, not far, just enough to stretch your legs and breathe in something other than smoke. On one such walk, you find an abandoned beehive. Dead, yes, but not destroyed. That means the bees might come back. And one day, you see a flower. Just one. A stubby yellow bloom barely the size of your thumb. You kneel next to it, fingers hovering. You don't touch it. You just stare wide-eyed, as if afraid to blink. That night you can't sleep. Not because of fear or cold or coughing, but because your mind won't stop spinning. You think about that flower, about shadows, about laughter. You think about next year, a concept that's felt impossible for months. At the council meeting, the elders speak in full sentences again. One suggests replanting barley. Another mentions the need to rebuild the broken fence near the pasture. Someone volunteers to repair the cartwheel. These are small things, but they're the language of normalcy. You still ration food. You still feel hunger. But now, every bite tastes like progress. Every warm cup of broth feels like defiance. Not everything is better. Some neighbors didn't make it. Some left and never came back. The tower they built to watch the sky collapsed in a storm and was never rebuilt. But even its wreckage feels like a monument now, a reminder that people tried, that they believed. You tuck your child into bed that night, as always. But this time, when they ask, will the sun come back tomorrow, you say something different. You say, probably, and you mean it. Let's talk about the people who didn't just ride out the storm in their drafty villages, boiling soup made of regrets and turnips. Some saw the dim sky, felt the biting cold, heard their neighbors whispering about curses, and made a choice, move or die. These were the wanderers, the risk-takers, the desperate. Families packed their lives into carts, if they had carts, or into sacks slung over shoulders. Some went south, chasing rumors of warmth. Others headed for the coasts, hoping the sea might be kinder than the soil. You hear the stories trickle in. A family of 5 left a neighboring village with 2 goats and a prayer. They made it as far as the mountain pass before a blizzard forced them to build a shelter from pine boughs and hope. They survived barely. The goats did not. Another group tried following the old Roman road eastward, thinking maybe the ruins of the empire held secrets.